Okay? Because in the discovery process, you're entitled to everything they ask for. So whatever they ask for, we just turn around and ask them. We don't mind. Okay? As long as you go and you utilize the system and you understand what you're doing, you can win. But I'm here to be telling you, you're going to have to go through it. Because there ain't no way around it. Okay? Because they're going to put you to the test. And I'm going to demonstrate to you in about just a little bit now. We'll take a break and then Brandy and I will get ready. And I'm going to demonstrate to you what happens when you run out of knowledge in court. Okay? Because what happens is you're like a bug hitting the windshield. Because when you run out of knowledge, you're toast. Okay? You ask for a continuance? Yeah. What's fun is when they ask for the first continuance just to regroup. And then you're going to get hammered. And it was interesting because as after they found me guilty, the prosecutor, she asked the prosecutor for recommendations, and he says, well, Your Honor, it's not necessarily that we want Mr. Davis in jail. We just want him to comply and be like everyone else. You know what my crime was? Failure to purchase a driver's license and failure to carry my papers. Your papers, please, sir. And the interesting part was, see, this is where I really found out that you have to prove yourself innocent. Okay, you got to go through this. If you get a ticket or any type of court action, you've got to go through this one time in your life just to experience it. Okay? Because, listen, you live in a country where all you ever hear about is other people and what happens to them. And we avoid this event like the plague. Why? Because we don't understand. We don't have knowledge. We have fear. False evidence appearing as reality. Okay? Because we have fear, we won't enter into an unknown territory. Well, man, 400 years ago, they got on a boat with no motor, and they came from one side of the ocean to the other. And then they got, I'm reading a series of books called Thunder Over the Ochoco, which the Ochoco Mountains are in Oregon. And it's a story of the development and transition of people to the West and all of the things that they went through. And it gives a list of things that they had to leave with on a wagon from St. Louis to get to Oregon or Washington or Idaho or California. You know what? There would be nobody in this room, including me today, that could make it. For one thing, I have to have a shower every day. Okay? The thing those people went through to go from there to here in a wagon with a bunch of horses or oxen is amazing. I wouldn't know where to begin. I'm kind of an outdoors guy. It's a long hike to the mailbox for me. I live in the mountains. Okay? I mean, you've got to experience this. I would encourage everybody to go through it one time. Just once. Don't do it twice. Okay? But you don't learn about your system that you live in and what's wrong with it unless you go through it. And how can you correct it if you don't know what's wrong with it? How can you understand what's going on if you don't go through it? So here I am, I got this ticket, I'm driving around with an international driver's license. Now I've got an Idaho license. I had one the day I got the ticket. It's just at home in the drawer. It was valid. This is how I found all this out. I didn't carry my registration and insurance papers. I had the international registration. State patrolman stops me. He says, I have never seen that license plate before. I said, well, I'm not surprised. He says, where's that from? I said, British West Indies. He said, well, do you live there? And I says, no. I just used the plate. He says, well, is that legal? I says, man, I don't know. You're the cop. He did. That's what he asked me. So anyway, he says, well, he says, I have to check this out. He says, I got to make a few phone calls, and if this is not legal, I'll be back. I'll be here. I says, if you'd like, you can give me a ticket now. No, I don't want to do that. I've got to go educate myself. And we had a nice conversation. He's a nice guy. A week later, here he drives in. And he says, well, prosecuting attorney says that's illegal. So here's your ticket. And I said, man, that's fine. Hand her here. And so that's when I went through that. Okay? And they found me guilty, and she sentenced me to 6 months. And I said, Your Honor, that's beyond the pale. Well, that's an insult. I didn't know it at the time. But that's beyond, what you're saying is that's beyond death. And she just says, you're not going to insult me. And I said, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. But I am not a criminal. I'm just me. I have 6 children. I have a business. I have 20 employees. I am not a criminal. So she looks over at the prosecutor and she says, what do you want to do? We just want him to comply and be like everyone else. So she says, do you know any reason why I can't sentence you? No, go ahead. Remember the bug hitting the windshield? And you know, and my buddy who's helping me all the way through this, 3 weeks later he says, you know, when they ask you if it's okay if you're sentenced, you always say no. Now you tell me. He says, oh yeah, you didn't object? I says, no, you didn't tell me that. So anyway, they have 6 cops come in the room. I mean, all armed to the teeth. And I look around the room and I'm going, oh no, you know. And I said, Your Honor, are these guys here for me? I have not done one thing disrespectful in this courtroom. I haven't threatened you in any way, and I'm offended. She says, gentlemen, you may leave the room. I don't need you. So then she proceeds to sentence me. She sentences me to 6 months on both counts, $600 fine, and 2 years probation. I go, Judas Priest, I'm going to be here forever. She says, but I'm going to suspend all but 10 days. Whew, that's a good deal. So she suspends all but 10 days, and then she says, and I'm going to give you one opportunity tomorrow morning to go get a driver's license. And if you'll go get a driver's license, all you'll have to be in jail is tonight. Fine. I can't afford to be in jail. I'll go. So I go home. I get my driver's license the next morning, because I went to jail. Not a good place. It's just location, though. And I get my driver's license, and she says, you be sure that you bring that right in the courtroom. No matter what, I'll stop. And boy, she did. I appeared at the door, and she says, Mr. Davis, you come right down here. So I went marching up there, and I handed her my driver's license, and she swore. Because she looked at the date, and here it was, a valid driver's license on the day that I got the ticket. And she says, Mr. Davis, why didn't you bring this forward? And I says, Your Honor, it's not my obligation to prove I'm innocent. It's his obligation to prove I'm guilty. And he said on the record he was going to bring forth my driving record from the Department of Transportation.